Greetings. This is Logue Elder, and this is another installment of Let's Talk Consciousness. My previous videos were about where consciousness explorations intersect with conspiracy theories and how you can kind of find spiritual grit out of grist for the mill in that. It took me to another topic that I wanted to do kind of a side um, discussion on. And so, just as I begin most of these videos, my intention here is just to look at um, life itself as if it is a conscious manifestation, a sort of intentional illusion that we take part of to grow and learn and experience. If that whole Eastern philosophy wrap is true, um, what do you do with it? How do you incorporate it in your day to day life? So, in the previous video, one of the things I referenced briefly was just the opening of a new can of worms with Hollywood. That with Harvey Weinstein, um, being all these accusations coming out, Kevin Spacey. I'm sure more will probably come out for other people who, in a similar way, were able to hide in plain sight. With an open secret, as it's been referred to, that more of that will come to light. It seems, but the reason I'm bringing that up is that there's an interesting thing I always kind of come up against and am repeatedly experiencing, and that is where if you're like me and you're trying to kind of claw your way out of a hole in terms of your self-worth, and that society at large tends to really rob you of it, or at least train you out of it to a large degree. Being self-empowered, it seems like people who are like that are kind of the exception, and you see there are people who are very self-motivated and driven, who believe that they're worthy of getting the things they want and they go after them. A lot of us, I think, are diminished by the way we've framed our society. So the reason I bring that up, we all tend to look at celebrities and put them on a pedestal. We tend to look at them as good people or perfect people. We know a little bit about them, but then we kind of forecast or telegraph or backfill all of this information about them based on our imagination, really, and the things they've done in movies and then in interviews, which is sort of real life but not really, because we don't interact with them face to face. We don't see, I mean, unless we're seeing like candid videos of them, we don't really see them as themselves. And so my point is, when you learn that whether it's Kevin Spacey or before him Bill Cosby or anybody else who you would have put on this pedestal, they have flaws. Every human has shit like this. Like, granted, we're not all doing the fucking heinous shit of like drugging and raping people, but we have things that are pretty fucked up and evil if we're able to go over our own experiences honestly and courageously. To let go of the attachment that we're always good people, because we can't, I mean, I talked a moment ago about the kind of deficit of self worth. Other people, it seems, have a kind of abundance of self worth or a lack of appreciation for their own flaws or their own capability of being wrong, where they always feel like they're a good person, on the flip side. Um, and I think they kind of suffer a similar problem where, there's a false perception that needs to be corrected. They need to be aware that they have, flaws, not necessarily in the sense that they reduce their own self worth, but they need to be aware of them to be um, intent on fixing them and working towards bettering themselves. Otherwise, it's just going to continue. So anyway, with celebrities, we put them on a pedestal. Now we see in these really public ways how they have dark sides that we did not imagine, and that you can bring into your day-to-day life. People in your community have these dark sides. You have this dark side if you're really being honest and looking at yourself. Something about your life has some moral or ethical dilemma that may even be totally camouflaged to you, because that's what we do to ourselves, our ego and our subconscious. So anyway, we put celebrities on a pedestal. We're learning that they don't belong there, and this is a good opportunity to kind of do some bootstrapping and look at your own flaws and the things that you think are so terrible and the things you judge yourself on and the things you're so embarrassed about when you look back at your experiences, or the things that you're ashamed of liking, or the things that you kind of want to present to the world but you're afraid. All these limitations of self, um, they are uh, uh, a little bit more petty and ridiculous when you look at how everyone else is pretty fucked up and shameful too. And you're no worse, and you really ought not to be limiting yourself, and you really ought to be participating and fucking letting us all enjoy what you have inside. So, with that in mind, uh, don't be discouraged by bad news. There's always some sort of lesson to be learned. There's always something to transcend, and I think we're all kind of moving in the right direction, even when it looks really terrible. That sometimes is the kind of stuff churning up that needs to come out and to heal. So with that said, enjoy your now, and don't be discouraged.